If someone had told me a dead phone and a drizzle would drop me into the back seat of a stranger's car, I would have cursed my luck. The rain sheeted down in curtains, a relentless storm that smeared the city into neon reflections and rushing shadows. Rowan hated nights like this, when everything felt one breath from tumbling into chaos. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Another cancellation. The third in a row. Apparently no one wanted to collect a soaked, exhausted woman from the edge of the industrial district at nearly midnight. She sighed, pulled her oversized hoodie tighter around her, and squinted along the street. Then a lone pair of headlights cut through the downpour and rolled to a stop right in front of her. She checked her phone. Nothing. No notification. Weird. Still, the back door swung open with quiet certainty. Rowan. A voice called from inside. Low, feminine, controlled. Rowan hesitated, then ducked into the car, brushing wet strands of hair out of her face. The interior smelled faintly of leather and something expensive she couldn't name. The driver didn't look at her right away. She was older, maybe mid-30s, wearing a black blazer that looked wildly out of place behind a steering wheel. Her dark hair was pulled into a clean, severe bun, and her profile was stunning. Sharp jawline, unreadable expression, lips that looked like they didn't smile often. "You're not from the app," Rowan said before she could stop herself. The woman finally turned to glance at her. "I was passing by. You looked stranded. You just pick up random girls on the street. Only the ones that look like they'll freeze if I don't." Her tone wasn't flirtatious. It was dry, amused, detached. Rowan blinked. "Right. Well, thanks. I'll pay you, of course. I was trying to get to Kingsford Rise. I know where that is." No GPS, no app, just a quiet U-turn, and they were gliding down wet roads like the storm couldn't touch them. Rowan looked around. No stickers, no phone mount, no rideshare license. The dashboard was sleek and spotless, like the car was a showroom model. "This is probably the nicest Uber I've ever been in." A soft sound, barely a huff. "It's not an Uber." Rowan blinked. "Right. Sorry. I didn't mean. You can tip me anyway." That time there was a hint of something under her words. Not flirtation, not sarcasm, something unreadable. Rowan laughed nervously. "Okay, I'll give you all the cash I've got, which is probably enough for a large coffee." "I don't drink coffee." "Teal. I don't do caffeine after midnight." "Midnight? Are you Cinderella or something?" For the first time, the woman turned her full attention to her. Her eyes were striking, dark, unreadable, intense in a way that made Rowan's skin tighten. "No. Cinderella waited for someone to rescue her." "I don't wait." Rowan didn't know how to respond to that, so she sat back and stared out the window, heart suddenly beating a little faster. The silence between them was thick but not uncomfortable. Just charged, she could feel the weight of the woman's presence, even without looking. The way she drove, calm, precise, like she was in control of more than just the car. The way her hands barely moved on the steering wheel. Rowan stole another glance. No ring. Not that she was checking. Okay, maybe she was. The woman seemed to notice, but didn't comment. "You work out there?" she asked finally, nodding back in the direction Rowan had come from. "Kind of. It's a warehouse. Night shift. Nothing glamorous." "You don't like it?" "It's a paycheck." "That's not an answer." Rowan frowned. "Are you always this direct with strangers?" "Only the ones who get into my car uninvited." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "You said my name. Lucky guess." "That's not funny." "I'm not trying to be." The car slid to a smooth stop at a red light and for a moment the city was silent except for the drum of rain on the roof. Rowan looked at her again fully now. There was something magnetic about her. Not beauty, though she had that in a terrifying, effortless kind of way. Power. It clung to her like perfume. "Who are you?" Rowan asked, suddenly uneasy. "You're not a driver." The light turned green. The woman said, "Nothing, just drove." 2 blocks later, they pulled up to the front of Rowan's apartment building. "Here," the woman said simply. Rowan didn't move. "I don't have your name." "I know. How do you know mine?" The woman looked over at her again, gazed steady. "This city is full of people who think they're invisible. You're not." Rowan opened her mouth, then closed it. Her fingers curled around her phone, but she didn't know what she was going to do with it. Finally, she reached into her wallet and pulled out the last $20 bill she had. She held it out. The woman didn't take it. "Keep it." You said I could tip you. You tried. Her lips curved. Just a fraction. Not a smile. Almost. That's what counts. And then she was gone. Door closed. Car disappearing down the street like a ghost. Tires silent on the wet asphalt. Rowan stood there for a long time, drenched, heart pounding, money still clutched in her hand. She didn't know the woman's name. She didn't know what just happened. But something in her gut told her this wasn't over. Not even close. Rowan barely slept. She kept waking up to the echo of the woman's voice in her head. Low, calm, sharp like a blade wrapped in silk. The way she said, "You're not invisible," had carved something into her. By morning, the memory of the ride felt surreal, like a dream tinted in high contrast. But her phone buzzed around 10 a.m. And that dream snapped into reality. Unknown number. She answered before she could think. "Hello, I hope you slept." The voice, the driver. Rowan sat up in bed, tangled in sheets. How did you get my number?" "It wasn't hard. You left your badge in my car." Rowan's hand flew to her hoodie pocket. "Gone." "I can bring it to you," the woman offered. "Or you can come get it." "You don't seem like the type who waits around," Rowan said, unsure whether she was flirting or being cautious. "I don't," the woman replied. "But I'm willing to make an exception. Once." Rowan hesitated. She didn't know this woman. She didn't even know her name. And yet, the idea of seeing her again sparked something low in her stomach. "Text me the address," she said finally. An hour later, she was standing outside a tall black glass building downtown. It didn't have a sign, no logo, just a private security desk in the lobby and an elevator that required key card access. The guard didn't even ask her name. "Penthouse," he said, handing her a temporary badge. The elevator ride was silent and too fast. The doors opened into a space that made Rowan stop breathing. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished stone floors, minimalistic furniture in cold grays and whites. The city stretched out below them, soaked in sun, and in the center of it all her. The woman sitting on the edge of a sleek desk, dark suit tailored to perfection, a glass of water in one hand. She looked like she'd stepped out of a high-stakes negotiation to make time for Rowan. "You made it," she said. "I wasn't sure you would. You don't strike me as someone who doubts outcomes." That earned the tiniest lift of one eyebrow. "You're observant." "Still don't know your name," Rowan said, walking further in. "I think I deserve that much." "You think you deserve a lot for someone who got into a stranger's car without hesitation." Rowan narrowed her eyes. "You said my name. You said you were there to pick me up." "I was." The woman's lips curved, small, calculating. "My name is Kasia." Rowan repeated it in her mind. Kasia, elegant, and cold. It fit her like a custom glove. "Well, Kasia," she said slowly. "Are you always this mysterious? Or is this a special occasion? You're the first person in a long time who's asked me that without fear in her voice. Why would people be afraid of you?" Kasia stood, walked toward a small side table, and picked up Rowan's badge. She handed it over carefully like it was something more important than a cheap plastic ID. "Some people don't like being reminded they're small." Rowan took it, their fingers brushing for half a second. It was like static electric. Kasia met her eyes and didn't look away. "Why did you really pick me up last night?" Rowan asked, her voice softer now. "You said you were passing by, but you knew my name. You knew where I worked." Kasia studied her for a long moment. "I saw you 3 nights ago. You were arguing with your manager in the alley behind the warehouse. You looked cornered and angry." Rowan's blood turned cold. "You were watching me. I was waiting for someone. You happened. That doesn't make it less creepy." "No. But it makes it honest." Rowan exhaled, heart racing. "You don't even know me." "Not yet." "Then why go through all this trouble?" "Because," Kasia said, stepping closer. "I know what it feels like to be underestimated, ignored, treated like a problem that someone else will fix eventually. I saw it on your face. That fury, that refusal to shrink." Rowan swallowed hard. "That's not a reason to stalk someone." "I didn't stalk you. I watched briefly, and when I saw you in the rain last night, I knew you weren't just another passing face. You reminded me of something I thought I'd buried a long time ago." Her voice softened just a little. "That matters." Rowan felt unsteady, like the floor beneath her head tilted. She didn't know if she was flattered, freaked out, or both. "You're intense. And you're curious." "I should go," Rowan said, though she didn't move. Kasia stepped aside, giving her a clear path to the elevator. You can, or you can stay. I was just about to have tea. You don't drink caffeine after midnight, Rowan murmured. But it's noon, Kasia replied. And you strike me as someone who could use a quiet moment. Rowan hesitated. Everything about this felt like crossing a line, and yet she gave a single nod. Okay, but just one cup. Kasia smiled properly for the first time, and it was lethal. Kasia's idea of tea didn't involve a chipped mug or a bag bobbing in lukewarm water. She guided Rowan to a private sitting area tucked behind a half-wall of smoked glass, where floor-to-ceiling windows poured light across a marble table already set with 2 porcelain cups, a silver service, and a plate of something flaky and fragrant. It felt like stepping into another world, one where time moved slower, where someone like Rowan didn't belong. Still, she sat. Kasia poured with soundless precision. Every movement elegant, practiced. Not the kind of grace you learn. The kind you inherit or command. Jasmine, she said. No caffeine. Delicate, not weak. Sounds like someone I just met, Rowan muttered. Kasia tilted her head, amused. You don't like quiet. It makes people nervous. Makes me nervous, because you can't control what silence might reveal. Because you don't like being alone with your thoughts for too long, Kasia finished, passing the cup. Their fingers brushed again. This time Rowan didn't pull away. The tea was warm, faintly sweet. She watched Kasia take her own sip, slow, measured, as if the rest of the world could wait. Rowan set her cup down. You own this place. I own this building. Rowan blinked. Wait, what? The entire structure. And 3 others on this block. You're kidding. I don't joke about property. But tell me, why were you out last night, driving around in the rain picking up strangers? I wasn't picking up strangers. I was driving. Thinking. Watching the city breathe, in a $1,000 suit. This one's closer to 4. Rowan almost choked. Jesus. Are you some kind of tycoon or a criminal mastermind? Kasia didn't flinch. Would it matter to you? I mean, kind of. I'd like to know if I'm having tea with a Bond villain. I don't deal in weapons or media. Rowan caught that. The line sounded deliberate, a boundary laid down. So what do you deal in? Control. Ownership. Precision. Things people only notice when they're gone. That's vague. Intentionally. Rowan studied her, suddenly aware of how little she actually knew. Kasia was the sort who kept backup plans for her backup plans, the kind who moved through the world like she owned it, because she did. And yet here she was, pouring tea, offering Rowan warmth in a world carved from stone. I don't get it, Rowan said at last. Why me? I'm not special. I work a job I hate. My apartment leaks when it rains and I haven't had health insurance in 2 years. You have sharp eyes, Kasia said. You notice patterns. You see people when they don't think they're being watched. That's rare. You make me sound like a spy. You could be if you ever got tired of warehouses. And you could be something else entirely. Kasia's smile was slow, almost reluctant. Do I intimidate you? You should. That's not a no. Rowan took another sip, letting the silence settle this time. It wasn't uncomfortable now, just hot, humming between them like a string pulled tight. You said people are afraid of you. They are. But I'm not. No, Kasia said. You're curious. That's more dangerous. Rowan met her gaze. Steady now. You going to do something dangerous? Kasia leaned forward. Her voice a quiet threat wrapped in velvet. That depends. Are you? Rowan didn't answer. Didn't need to. Her pulse was already thudding in her ears. She stood slowly, not in retreat, but in challenge. Kasia mirrored the movement. They were inches apart now, heat radiating between them. This is a bad idea, Rowan murmured. Most interesting things are, Kasia replied. And are you always this intense with women you barely know? Only the ones who step into my car without permission and stay for tea. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting. The air was sharp with tension. Not volatile. Electric. Rowan's hand hovered near Kasia's wrist, not touching, just feeling the pull. Kasia didn't move. She waited, measured, watching every breath, every flicker of hesitation. Rowan exhaled slowly. I should go, then go. But neither of them moved. Finally, Rowan stepped back. Just enough to breathe. Just enough to stop herself. Thank you for the tea and the weird honesty. We're not finished. It wasn't a question. No, Rowan said softly. We're not. She left without looking back, but her heart was still in that room, still tangled in the quiet, in the way Kasia had looked at her like she was both a puzzle and a storm. The warehouse looked the same, gray, grimy, and eternally humming with fluorescent lights that flickered like they were trying to die. But everything felt different to Rowan. She moved through the narrow corridors of boxes and forklifts like a ghost, distracted, unsettled. Kasia's voice echoed in her head with an intimacy that made her skin burn. You reminded me of something I thought I'd buried. That matters. She should have laughed at that. Should have brushed it off as a power play, a line, but it hadn't felt like one. It had felt real. Her hands were slower that night. Her thoughts elsewhere. When her shift ended at 3 a.m., she walked home instead of calling a ride. She needed the cold, the silence. The city was nearly asleep, just distant sirens and the occasional flash of headlights. She was 2 blocks from her apartment when she saw it. A sleek black car parked at the curb, engine off. Not Kasia, she told herself. Couldn't be. But as she passed, the passenger window rolled down and there she was. You walk home at this hour? Kasia asked, not surprised. I needed air. And what did the air tell you? That I'm not ready for whatever this is. But you didn't say no. No, Rowan admitted. I didn't. Kasia reached over and opened the passenger door. Get in. Not to go anywhere. Just get in. Against her better judgment, Rowan did. The leather seat was warm from the heater. The air inside smelling faintly of sandalwood and something darker. Kasia didn't speak. Neither did Rowan. They just sat, the city around them holding its breath. You're impossible to forget, Rowan said suddenly. Even when I try. Kasia turned toward her, one hand resting loosely on the wheel. I don't want to be forgotten. Then what do you want? A long pause to see how far you'll let me go. That answer hit something inside Rowan she hadn't named in years. Not since before she'd learned to protect herself by never wanting too much. What if I don't know where the line is? She whispered. Then we find it together. Rowan's pulse was thunder. She looked at Kasia. Really looked. There was something fragile beneath all that power. Something caged. And maybe that's what scared her most. Not what Kasia might do, but what Rowan might become around her. Why are you here? She asked. You could be anywhere. And yet, Kasia murmured. Here I am. The tension shifted, became something heavier, slower. Kasia reached forward, but not to touch her. She simply tucked a loose strand of hair behind Rowan's ear with devastating gentleness. You don't have to be careful with me, Rowan said. Yes, Kasia said quietly. I do. The silence stretched, their breath the only sound between them. Rowan didn't move, didn't dare. She didn't want to break whatever this was, but her eyes dropped to Kasia's mouth, and that was all it took. Kasia noticed. Of course, she did. And instead of closing the space, she leaned back, breaking the moment. Not yet, she said. Why not? Rowan asked a little breathless. Because when I kiss you, Kasia said. You won't be thinking about anyone else for a very long time. Rowan sat back, her heart a mess of frustration and anticipation. You're cruel. No, Kasia said with a soft smile. I'm patient. She drove her home without being asked, silent the whole way. When they arrived, Rowan didn't move right away. Will I see you again? That depends. On what? On whether you knock next time instead of waiting to be found. Then she was gone. No promises. No guarantees, just a challenge. And Rowan was already planning how to answer it. The next day felt like a dare she hadn't accepted yet. Rowan moved through her morning like someone waiting for a sign, a text, a knock, something. But Kasia had left nothing. No breadcrumb trail, no casual message, no reminder that she existed. And still, Rowan felt her everywhere. In the quiet corners of her apartment, in the pulse that hadn't slowed since she got out of that car. In the mirror where her own reflection looked like someone she didn't recognize. Someone who wanted something she couldn't name. By afternoon, she was pacing. Frustrated, restless, she stared at the badge Kasia had returned to her. Plastic cheap. But now it felt like a relic from a version of herself that didn't exist anymore. Then without thinking, she got dressed, not for work, not for errands, for her. She didn't know if Kasia would even be there. She didn't care. She went back to the glass building. Same guard, same quiet lobby. But this time, when he saw her, he didn't hesitate. Just handed her a new badge, her name already printed on it. "You've been added to the list," he said. Rowan's stomach flipped. "What list?" "Ask her," the man replied, smiling faintly. "You're the only one on it." The elevator ride felt different this time. Not like a trespass, like a return. The doors opened into the same space, but it was darker now. Sun setting through the glass, casting gold across the floor. Kasia stood by the window, hands clasped behind her back, her silhouette outlined in amber. She didn't turn when Rowan stepped in. "You came," she said. "You didn't leave me much choice." "I left you every choice. Then maybe I wanted to stop pretending I didn't want this." That made Kasia turn slowly. Her eyes were unreadable, but her expression softened. "Then don't pretend." Rowan stepped forward, heart slamming. "You said I had to knock. This is me knocking." Kasia walked toward her slow and measured. "What are you asking for, Rowan?" Her name sounded different in Kasia's voice, like something rare, something worth holding. "I don't know," Rowan said honestly. "But I want to find out with you." Kasia stopped in front of her. "The clothes but not touching." "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm here anyway." That was the right answer. Kasia reached up, fingers brushing Rowan's jaw, tilting her face up. Her touch was feather-light, reverent almost, as if Rowan were something fragile and dangerous all at once. "You shouldn't be," Kasia murmured. "But I'm glad you are." Then her lips found Rowan's. No hesitation, no testing the waters, just heat control, hunger wrapped in elegance. And Rowan melted into it like she'd been waiting for this kiss since the moment she first saw her. It wasn't desperate. It was deliberate. Kasia kissed the way she did everything with intention. Every movement of her mouth, the press of her hand at the back of Rowan's neck, the way she didn't rush or demand, but claimed quietly, thoroughly. Rowan gasped into her, gripping the fabric of that tailored blazer like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. When they finally pulled apart, it wasn't with regret. It was with the knowledge that something had shifted permanently. That was Rowan started but couldn't finish. "Yes," Kasia said, her voice lower now. "It was. Is this dangerous?" "It will be." "Are you going to ruin me?" Rowan asked, only half joking. Kasia studied her. Something sharp behind her calm. "I don't ruin people. I make them impossible to forget." "That might be worse." "Then leave," Kasia whispered. "Now, before this gets deeper." Rowan didn't move. "No." Kasia's eyes darkened. "Then stay. But don't expect mercy." Rowan stepped closer again. "I'm not here for mercy." "What are you here for?" "To stop pretending I'm not starving for something I can't name." Kasia's lips twitched. "Then let's feed it slowly." She took Rowan's hand, not to lead her anywhere, but just to hold it. It was the most intimate thing she'd done yet. They stood there as the city darkened outside the windows, lights flickering on one by one. The skyline stretched around them like a secret. And in that silence, in that stillness, Rowan felt something click into place. Like the story had already begun. And there was no going back now. Rowan didn't sleep at her apartment that night. She didn't sleep at all. After the kiss, after the heat and the stillness and that soft, almost reverent touch of Kasia's fingers against hers, they sat together in silence for what felt like hours. Not talking, not planning, just existing in the same space, letting the electricity between them settle like dust after a storm. Kasia never once tried to push the moment into something more. She didn't ask Rowan to stay. She didn't ask her to leave either. When dawn started bleeding into the horizon, Rowan stood, kissed Kasia's temple without a word, and walked out. And she felt different, not claimed, not consumed, but seen in a way that left her raw. The next morning, back at the warehouse, the world felt louder, harsh. Her coworkers made offhand jokes she didn't laugh at. The manager barked orders she barely heard. It all felt too sharp, too far away from whatever she'd touched the night before. During her break, she stood outside in the loading dock, breathing the cold air. That's when she noticed it. Her next week's schedule had been changed. She hadn't requested it. Fewer night shifts, more reasonable hours, the kind of shifts people fought for. When she asked the manager about it, he just shrugged. Someone higher up requested it. He muttered. Said, "You were being reassessed." By who? No idea. Must be from corporate. Rowan didn't believe that for a second. Not until she found a black envelope tucked into her locker that afternoon. No name, just her initials in silver ink. Inside, a single card, thick and matte, with a time and an address. Tonight, 8 p.m. She stared at it for 10 full minutes before tucking it into her jacket. She didn't need a name to know where it came from. The address led to a private restaurant on the 51st floor of a building she'd never stepped foot in. The hostess didn't even ask for her name, just led her through a quiet dining room into a side room with glass walls and candle light. Kasia was already there, wearing black again, always black. Her hair down this time in soft, elegant waves. It changed her, made her seem younger, or maybe just less guarded. Rowan didn't speak, she just sat. Kasia lifted her glass in greeting. "You came. You keep inviting me," Rowan replied. "I'm starting to think you want something." "I do. And are you going to tell me what it is?" Eventually, the waiter came and went. Wine was poured. Dishes were offered, most of which Rowan couldn't pronounce, but none of that mattered. The air between them buzzed with quiet energy. When the waiter was gone, Rowan leaned in. "Did you change my schedule?" "Yes." "Why?" "You looked tired." "That's not a reason." "It is when you matter to me." The words were simple, direct, no pretense. They hit Rowan harder than she expected. "You barely know me." "Knowing someone," Kasia said, "is a choice." "I've chosen you." Rowan swallowed. "That sounds possessive." "It is. And I should be okay with that." "You're still sitting here, aren't you?" "What do you even want from me, Kasia?" The older woman sat back, eyes unreadable. "That depends. Are you here to be consumed or changed? Is there a third option?" "No." Rowan exhaled. "You're not like anyone I've ever met." "Good. No, not always. You make me feel like I'm walking a wire. Like one wrong step and I fall. Then don't look down." Rowan laughed, but it didn't quite land. "What happens when this gets real?" "It already is." "And if I walk away?" "You won't." Kasia didn't deliver it as a threat, but as a truth she'd already watched unfold, and Rowan hated how much she agreed. After dinner, Kasia didn't ask her to stay. Yet when she slid over a key card tied with silk ribbon, Rowan didn't hesitate. It opened a private suite 3 floors below the restaurant, warm, clean, untouched. Rowan stepped in alone, heart pounding. On the bed, another card, "In case you need somewhere that feels like yours." She didn't sleep with Kasia that night, but she didn't sleep alone either. Hours later, Kasia came, no words, just the whisper of the door, the dip of the mattress, her body curling behind Rowan's as if they'd done it 100 times. No kisses, no heat. Only warmth. Only closeness. Rowan closed her eyes and let herself fall. She didn't dream of falling. She dreamed of belonging. The smallest things shifted first. The hush between them no longer crackled. It settled, necessary, comfortable. The second glass of wine waiting before Rowan asked. The way Kasia used her name less, her voice carrying a tone that made Rowan feel singular, claimed. The suite turned familiar, not merely a room, a rhythm. Kasia rarely stayed through the night, but she always arrived late, sometimes without a word, like a rite. Rowan never asked where she'd been. She didn't want to puncture the illusion. But illusions don't keep quiet forever. It began with the missing shift. Rowan reached the warehouse to find her name gone from the board, no note, just erased. Her badge wouldn't open the employee entrance. The manager wouldn't meet her eyes. "Corporate decision," he muttered. "Reassignment." Reassignment to where? They didn't say. Back in the suite, she called HR. The voice on the line was courteous, mechanical. "Your status has been transferred to a private consultancy account," the woman said. "Under a new division." "Which division?" "Miss March's executive portfolio." Rowan froze. "What does that mean?" "It means you now report directly to Ms. Kasia March." The call ended before she could press further. She sat on the bed, phone slack in her hand. Her job gone, replaced, absorbed into Kasia's world without warning or consent. That night, when Kasia arrived, Rowan didn't move to greet her. She stood at the window, arms folded, jaw set. "You erased my life," she said. Kasia tilted her head, expression unchanged. "I gave you something better." "You didn't ask." "You didn't say no." "Because I didn't know." "You knew enough." Rowan turned, anger bright in her eyes. "Do you always do this? Pull people into your orbit and rearrange them until they fit your design?" "I make space for them." "That's not the same." "It is to me." Rowan shook her head. "You're used to being obeyed, not challenged. And you're not used to being given options you didn't ask for. This wasn't an option. It was a decision. And you made it for me. Cash's expression finally cracked. Not into anger, but something quieter. Tired. You hated that job. You said so yourself. That doesn't mean I wanted to be owned. That landed hard. Kasha stepped back slightly. Like the word itself had struck her. Is that what this feels like right now? Yes. The room was quiet for a long time. Then Kasha said very softly, you once said you were starving for something you couldn't name. That doesn't mean I want to be consumed. I don't want to consume you. Then what do you want? Kasha looked at her, really looked, and for once, there was no mask, no calm control, just a woman with too many walls and not enough doors. To be close to someone without it becoming a war. Rowan's anger faltered. She breathed in, then out. Then stop acting like proximity is conquest. You scare me, Kasha admitted. Because you're the first person I haven't been able to predict. Good, Rowan said. Because I don't want to be solved. I want to be chosen every time. Without you editing my life behind my back. Another long silence. Kasha walked forward slowly, then sat on the edge of the bed. Her voice, when it came, was quieter than ever. I've spent so long in control that I forgot how to ask for what I want. Then start here, Rowan whispered. With me? Kasha looked up at her, eyes dark with something that wasn't power. It was hope, fragile and unfamiliar. Will you stay? She asked. This time, Rowan didn't hesitate. She crossed the room, took Kasha's face in both hands, and kissed her. Not to reclaim ground, but to remind them both that this wasn't a transaction. It was a choice. A messy, terrifying, real choice. That night, they undressed each other like it meant something. Like every inch of skin was a conversation they hadn't had yet. It wasn't about dominance. It was about closeness. Hands, mouths, soft sounds in the dark. Trust built slowly, breath by breath. No performance, no roles, just them. At some point, hours later, Rowan lay with her head on Kasha's chest, their bodies tangled, the world outside forgotten. Do you still want to change me? Rowan asked sleepily. No, Kasha whispered. I just want to know what you become when you're finally safe. The suite was quiet. Morning poured in slow and golden, cutting across the sheets like a soft promise. Rowan stirred first, blinking into the light, her body heavy with the weight of something real. Kasha was still asleep beside her, or at least pretending to be. Her face, usually so guarded, looked almost human in the haze of morning, softer, exposed. Rowan didn't move. She just watched her for a while, letting the silence stretch. Not everything needed words, but the silence didn't last. Kasha's phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once, twice, then again. She ignored it. Rowan didn't. Aren't you going to check that? She asked quietly. Kasha opened her eyes, blinked once, and reached over. She read the message. Her jaw tightened. Rowan sat up. What is it? Kasha didn't answer right away. Then I have to go now. Yes. She got up and began dressing with her usual precision, her armor falling back into place piece by piece. The cold returned to her eyes. Rowan stood too, pulling the sheet around herself. Is something wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. Kasha, it's business. I'm not your employee. No, Kasha said, pausing. But you're not separate from all this either. Not anymore. Rowan's chest tightened. What does that mean? It means some doors once opened can't be closed again. You make everything sound like a warning. Maybe it is. Kasha left without kissing her. That was the part that stung most. Hours passed. Rowan tried not to spiral, but she wasn't used to silence after something so raw. The space felt emptier than ever. When she finally stepped outside, hoping to clear her head, she didn't expect to find a black car idling by the curb. Not Kasha's usual one. A different driver, male, suit, earpiece. Miss March asked me to take you somewhere, he said. Rowan hesitated. Why? I wasn't told. That's not comforting. She said you'd want to see it. Against her better judgment, Rowan got in. The car wound through parts of the city she didn't know. Industrial areas that had long since stopped trying to hide their decay. After 40 minutes, they arrived. A gated property, overgrown, quiet. The drivers stayed outside. Rowan stepped into the compound alone. It wasn't abandoned, but it felt forgotten, like someone had tried to erase it without fully succeeding. Inside she found a room, small, dusty, with a single photograph resting on a table. 2 girls, maybe 10, maybe younger. One of them unmistakably Kasia, smiling, hair wild, eyes bright. The other girl Rowan didn't recognize. On the back of the photo, a name, Aria, and a year almost 2 decades ago. Before Rowan could process, a voice cut through the doorway. I thought you'd want to see where I came from. Kasia, calm, distant, but present. Rowan turned. Why here? Why now? Because last night changed everything. And I don't let people get close without showing them what they're walking into. And what is this? A ruin? Kasia said simply. One I built an empire to forget. They walked slowly through the house together. Or what was left of it. Burnt door frames, cracked tile, stories in every corner. I used to live here, Kasia said with her. She nodded toward the name on the photo. Aria was my sister, older by a year. Brilliant, brave. She was the reason I survived this place. Rowan held the photo again. What happened? She died. The words landed like stone. A fire, an accident. They said she was trying to protect me. I don't remember most of it. Just smoke and screaming. Rowan stepped closer. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Kasia's voice was still now. You wanted to know what I am when I'm not wearing suits in silence. This is it. Rowan touched her arm light. Careful. You didn't have to build a city to bury her. No, I built it so no one could ever take anything from me again. And has it worked? Kasia turned to her until now. The vulnerability between them wasn't gentle. It was raw, jagged, like pressing fingers into an old wound, but Rowan didn't flinch. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Kasia without asking. And Kasia, rigid for only a second, let herself be held. Really held. For the first time, maybe in years. I don't want to fix you, Rowan whispered. Then don't, Kasia murmured. Just stay. So she did. They left the house hand in hand, without speaking, and the car door closed behind them like a seal, like a secret shared. The city looked different after that day, colder in some ways, softer in others. Rowan couldn't unsee what she'd seen. The ruin, the photo, the name Aria now stitched into her understanding of Kasia like a thread she couldn't pull loose. And Kasia, she was quieter, not distant, but changed. Like opening that door had cost her something she wasn't sure she'd get back. Rowan didn't ask questions. She just stayed for days. The suite became more than a hideout. It became something fragile and sacred. A place where Kasia no longer needed to wear silence like armor. She came home earlier, sat closer, touched more, spoke less, and Rowan didn't press until she had to. It was a Tuesday afternoon when the knock came. Sharp, measured, not hotel staff. Rowan opened the door to find a woman in her 30s. Sleek hair, red lips, sharp eyes that scanned Rowan like a threat. You're her? The woman asked. No introduction. Excuse me. Rowan, right? I know who you are. She doesn't let people stay in this suite unless they're a distraction or a weapon. Which one are you? Rowan blinked. Who the hell are you? Her business partner. Or I used to be. The woman crossed the threshold without being invited. Name's Nadia. Kasia and I go back 15 years. Banked our first 2 properties together. She used to call me her only equal. Rowan stepped between her and the bedroom door. You need to leave. Oh, I will. But first, let me ask you this. Has she told you why she's really in the city? She owns half the city. Yeah, but why the city? Why now? Rowan didn't answer. Because the truth was Kasia had never told her. Not that part. Thought so, Nadia said, mouth twisting into something bitter. She's here to take someone down. Old money, old blood, and you're in the middle of it now, sweetheart, whether you know it or not. She dropped a folder on the table. When she finally burns everything to the ground, don't say no one warned you. And then she was gone like smoke. Rowan stared at the folder for a long time before touching it. Inside contracts, photos, maps, a list of properties under acquisition. Names she didn't recognize except one. Langford Holdings. She froze. That was the name on her mother's mortgage. Rowan hadn't thought about that in years. Her mother had lost their family home when Rowan was 17. Foreclosure, legal action. It had torn them apart. She'd never known the full story. But seeing the name here tied to Kasia's signature made her stomach twist. That night when Kasia returned, Rowan didn't greet her with a kiss. She held up the folder. What is this? Kasia froze in the doorway, eyes narrowing. Where did you get that? Nadia? Rowan said she came here, walked in like she still belonged. She doesn't, but this. Rowan shook the folder, voice rising. This does. And I want to know why my family's history is buried in your war. Kasha didn't move. Your family Langford Holdings took our house. Took everything. And now I find out you're targeting them. They're corrupt. They've laundered money through 10 shell companies. They evict families at gunpoint. I'm doing the city a favor. That's not what I asked. I didn't know about your mother. Not until now. You expect me to believe that? Yes, because if I had known, I would have told you. I would have found another way. Rowan's heart was pounding. Why the city, Kasha? Kasha stepped closer. Because this is where everything started. Where I learned the cost of silence, the cost of being powerless. I came back to take it all back. Every inch. Even if it means destroying the people I love. I never meant to hurt you, but you did. Rowan's voice broke. You say you want to know who I become when I'm safe, but you're the one setting fire to the ground under my feet. Kasha flinched. I've always believed power protects the ones we love. I didn't know how to stop. Then maybe you need to learn. The silence was sharp. Rowan took a step back. I need space. Don't leave. I'm not leaving. Her voice softened. I just need to remember who I was before you rewrote the map. Kasha nodded once. No protest, no manipulation, just acceptance. Raw and painful. Will you come back? She asked. If you stop trying to control everything, Rowan said. If you let yourself be with me instead of always 10 steps ahead of me. I don't know how. Then let that be the first thing you learn. Rowan left the suite without packing a bag. She didn't slam the door. She just closed it. Quiet, firm, like a boundary. Not an ending. Outside, the city lights didn't look as warm, but they still looked real. And that for now was enough. Rowan didn't go home. She didn't go back to the warehouse either. That version of her, pale under fluorescent lights, shoulders hunched from invisible weight, felt like a ghost. She wasn't ready to reclaim. Instead, she drifted. 3 nights at a friend's place, a week at a short-term rental above a bookstore that smelled like cinnamon and old pages. She told no one where she was, not even Kasha. Especially not Kasha. The silence between them stretched longer than she expected. No messages, no calls, not even a knock at the door. And that somehow hurt more than anything. She expected resistance. Please. Some strategic maneuver, but Kasha respected her distance. Or maybe she didn't know how to close the space without control. Still, Rowan couldn't stop thinking about her in the quiet moments, in the spaces between sleep and waking, in the way she touched her face in the mirror and half expected to find Kasha's hand instead. Meanwhile, the world moved on. The city kept pulsing. Headlines she didn't read whispered about real estate shifts and quiet acquisitions. Kasha's name never appeared, but Rowan knew her fingerprints were there. One morning, Rowan walked past a community center she hadn't noticed before. New paint, new sign. Inside, a small group of teenagers was gathered arguing over paint colors for the walls. We're opening in a month, one of them said. Miss March wants it ready by then. Rowan froze. Miss March. Yeah. The girl nodded. She's funding the whole renovation. No press though. Told us if a camera showed up, she'd shut it down. Why? She said some things are more powerful when they're anonymous. That night, Rowan sat on the floor of her rental, hands in her lap, heart aching. She knew Kasha knew how hard that must have been for her to give and not claim credit. To help and stay invisible. It wasn't a grand gesture. It was something quieter, something real, something that looked like growth. Rowan picked up her phone 3 times before finally dialing. It rang once, then twice, and then Rowan. Her voice rougher than usual. Rowan swallowed. Hi. A pause. You're safe. I'm okay. Another pause. Are you coming home? Rowan closed her eyes. Not yet, but I want to see you. A breath of silence. Then when? Now. 30 minutes later, they stood in the hallway of the suite like strangers who remembered every inch of each other's skin. Kasha looked tired. Not polished, not flawless, just real. Rowan stepped forward first. I needed to know I could still stand on my own. Kasha nodded. And I can. Another beat. But I don't want to stand alone. Kasha's breath shook. Neither do I. I don't want control, Rowan said softly. Not over you. Not from you. I want to build something. And I want it to be ours. Even if I don't know how, especially if you don't, because I'm learning, too. Kasia reached for her slow and uncertain for the first time. Like she wasn't sure she was allowed. Rowan met her halfway, their arms wrapped around each other like forgiveness. We're a mess, Kasia whispered. Yes, Rowan said. But we're honest now. You still scare me. And you still make me want things I've never wanted before. Kasia leaned her forehead against Rowan's. Like what? Like staying? Like trying? Like hoping it's not too late. They didn't sleep that night. Not because they fell into each other's bodies again, but because they talked hours, wounds and memories, childhoods and fears. Kasia spoke of Arya, of the nights she still dreams of fire. Of her need to win because losing once cost her everything. Rowan told her about growing up holding her mother's hands while watching everything else fall apart. About the guilt of surviving, about the fear of needing someone she couldn't control. When the sun came up, they were still there on the couch, fingers laced, foreheads touching, no promises, no ultimatums, just the beginning of something neither of them had words for yet. But maybe for the first time, they didn't need them. They didn't move in together. Nothing official, but the nights began to blur. Rowan never quite left. Kasia never quite asked her to stay. First a toothbrush appeared, then a drawer, then a plant Rowan brought in unannounced, just to see if Kasia would object. She didn't. She watered it herself. Still, it wasn't simple. Some mornings Rowan woke with the weight of silence again, not sharp like before, but dense, as if something unspoken hovered between them. Kasia tried, that much was obvious. She left her phone in another room at dinner. She asked questions and actually listened instead of deflecting. She let Rowan see her tired, see her fail. And yet, in brief, quiet flashes, she retreated behind her eyes again, instinctive, like armor she kept forgetting she no longer needed. Rowan noticed. One night, weeks into their careful repair, Rowan found Kasia alone in the office, facing a corkboard crowded with documents, acquisitions, strategic moves, war plans, Rowan thought. Always war. You still want to burn it all down? She asked from the doorway. Kasia didn't turn. No. Not all of it. Then what? Just the parts that made me small. And you think you'll know when to stop? That made Kasia look over. Her expression was unreadable, but not cold. That's why you're here, isn't it? To be the one thing that makes me stop. No, Rowan said. I'm not here to stop you. I'm here to remind you why you started. A beat. Then sometimes I forget. Then I'll remind you again, as many times as it takes. Kasia crossed to her, slow, deliberate, and touched Rowan's face like it steadied her. This thing between us, it's the only thing I don't want to win. I just want to hold it. Then stop holding your breath. They kissed there, quiet, city lights flickering behind glass. Slow, warm, and underneath, something trembled. The next morning, Rowan's phone rang. Her mother, months since they'd spoken. I saw your name in something, her mother said. Investor documents. You signed a lease deal. Rowan went still. What? Your name's listed next to some new project. A low-income housing build. It's under a foundation I've never heard of. Rowan pulled up the file. The foundation's name meant nothing to her, but the signature at the bottom did. Kasia. A quiet transaction. A property gifted. And she'd used Rowan's name to do it. Without asking again, Rowan didn't confront her right away. She sat with it, let the feeling settle. This time, it wasn't rage. It was disappointment. That night she waited until Kasia came home. She was quiet. Calm? Why did you do it? Because the land was useless to me and because you care about those people. You put my name on a legal document without my consent. I thought no, Rowan said sharply. You decided that's the problem. Kasia's mouth tightened. It was a gift. It was control dressed as generosity. You think I was trying to own you? No. I think you still don't know how to stand next to someone instead of in front of them. That hit harder than she meant it to. Kasia turned away. I thought I was helping. You were, but you didn't trust me enough to let me help myself. The room fell into silence. Then Kasia sat, hands folded like she was bracing for impact. I've spent my life believing that love was something you proved through action. Control, security. I never had someone just stay. Not without needing me to be the one holding everything up. You don't have to prove anything, Rowan said. You just have to let me be part of it. I'm scared. Kasia admitted that I'll lose you if I loosen my grip. Rowan knelt in front of her, taking both hands. You'll lose me if you don't. Kasha let out a shaky breath. I'm trying. Then show me. Not with gifts. Not with power, with trust. Okay. And next time you want to put my name on something, Rowan said, half smiling, ask me first. Maybe I will say yes. You're infuriating, Kasha whispered. And you're relentless. It's why we work. Kasha kissed her then. Not as apology, not as reassurance, just because. And when she pulled back, she whispered, let's build something neither of us can hold alone. Together, Rowan said. Or not at all. The days grew warmer, softer. And for a while things between them settled into a rhythm that felt dangerously close to peace. Mornings with quiet coffee, evenings with books half read aloud. A new kind of intimacy bloomed. One not based on desire or drama, but on presence, real grounding presence. Rowan started taking meetings, small ones, local organizations, housing initiatives. She didn't wear suits. She wore denim and stubbornness. She refused to be just a name on Kasha project. She wanted to shape it. Kasha let her. That was the miracle. Not just the letting go, but the watching, the pride she didn't try to mask when she stood in the back of the room and let Rowan speak for them both. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy, but it was real. Until a knock at the door came late, a Tuesday. Kasha opened it, expecting security, expecting nothing. But there she was, drenched in rain, red lipstick smudged, eyes dark with history. Nadia again. Rowan stepped into the hallway when she heard the voice. The tension was immediate, thick. She still lets herself in. I see. Rowan said, arms crossed. I was invited this time, Nadia replied, tone dry. By me, Kasha confirmed. Rowan blinked. Why? Kasha didn't answer. Nadia stepped inside, shaking rain from her coat. You should sit for this. Rowan didn't say it standing. Langford Holdings is retaliating. Nadia said backdoor deals undermining your acquisitions. You already lost 2 buildings this week, but you didn't notice because they transferred through shadow companies. How do you know that? Kasha asked. Because I'm the one they offered the contracts to. The room dropped 10 degrees. Rowan felt it first. That sick twist in her gut. You work for them now? No, Nadia said, I let them think I might long enough to see what they're building. They're not just trying to win. They're trying to erase you. Why are you telling me this? Kasha asked. Nadia's voice softened. Because I've watched you tear cities down, but I've never seen you try to protect one before, and I think I want to help. Rowan narrowed her eyes. You helping her or helping yourself? Does it matter? It does to me. Kasha stood between them. Enough. If she's telling the truth, we don't have time to waste. Rowan's voice was lower now. And you trust her after everything? I don't know. Then say that. Kasha turned to her, jaw tight. I don't know who to trust right now, Rowan. But if what Nadia is saying is real, we need allies. She's not an ally. She's a mirror of who you used to be. Maybe that's why I need her. Rowan looked between them. And what about me? What am I in this? You're the only thing that's real to me in all of this, Kasha said. Then act like it. Don't bring shadows into our home without telling me. Kasha's face changed. Shame. Frustration. Conflict. You're right. Nadia stepped back. You two clearly have a rhythm I'm not part of. But if I walk away now, you lose your only inside look at Langford's next move. Rowan didn't flinch. Then give us the information and go. She stays, Kasha said, quiet but firm. Rowan turned slowly. Excuse me. Just for a few days until we confirm what she knows. Then she's gone. Nadia raised her hands. I'll sleep in the guest room. I'm not here to cause drama. Too late. Rowan snapped. That night, the suite felt wrong. Off balance. Rowan didn't speak. Kasha didn't push. They slept in the same bed, but didn't touch. Rowan stared at the ceiling, angry at how much she cared. Angry at how afraid she was of history repeating itself. In the morning, she found Nadia in the kitchen barefoot drinking Kasha's coffee like she belonged. You always insert yourself where you're not wanted, Rowan asked. Only where I'm still needed, Nadia replied. You're not needed here. You don't get to decide that. Neither do you. Kasha's voice cut between them. She looked tired. Warren already pulled into some invisible fight. I decide. And I said, Nadia stays for now. Rowan looked at her. Really looked. Then you fight this without me. What? I won't be part of a triangle. Not with you. Not with her. Not with the woman you used to be. Rowan, I love you, she said. But I won't compete. Not even with ghosts. She left before Kasia could answer. And this time it felt like something broke. Kasia didn't chase her. That's what haunted Rowan most. She waited for hours for footsteps in the hall, for the door to open, for the echo of that voice that always sounded like a calm before the storm. But it never came. She stayed in a hotel that first night, then another. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't even cry. She just sat with a quiet, feeling the shape of absence like a bruise. She thought it would be rage that consumed her. But it wasn't. It was grief. Because this time Kasia knew better and still chose the war. Across the city, Kasia stared out the window of the suite, eyes red, body still. Nadia sat nearby, silent for once. She left, Kasia said. Yeah. Because of you. No, Nadia replied. Because of you, Kasia didn't move. I thought I could balance it. I thought I could keep her close and still finish what I started. You can't hold someone like Rowan and a war at the same time. Kasia's jaw tightened. I'm not used to choosing. Then it's time to learn. Nadia stood. I'll get the files ready. You can burn Langford to the ground or you can burn yourself, but I'm not staying to watch both. She left without another word. For the first time in a long time, Kasia was alone. Truly alone. No leverage, no allies, no backup plan, just the weight of her own silence. That night she drove. No driver, no GPS, just muscle memory and instinct. She ended up outside a modest brick building on the edge of the city. The housing project Rowan had fought to protect. Lights glowed from inside. Families, children, life. She sat in the car for nearly an hour watching, remembering. Then she got out. She didn't go in. She left a folder at the door. Signed papers, transfers, titles, full ownership turned over to a local organization, the one Rowan had partnered with. No press, no leverage, no gain, just a choice. She went home alone and wrote a letter. Not a text, not a message, a letter. The next morning, it arrived at Rowan's door. Slipped under with no signature, but the handwriting was unmistakable. Rowan, I don't know how to be softer than war. I don't know how to protect something without trying to own it. You were the first thing I didn't want to win. Just hold. Just love. And I failed. I let her in because I was scared. Not of her, but of being wrong. Of being seen as weak for putting you first. But weakness isn't loving you. It's thinking I could ever keep you while still living like I didn't need you. You don't have to come back. But if you do, I won't ask you to stand beside me in a fight. I'll stand beside you to see. Rowan read the letter 3 times. Once angry, once afraid, once in tears. Then she went to the housing center. The staff handed her the folder. Anonymous donation. They said, all signed. Everything yours now. She opened it and there it was. Her name, her project, her control, and no trace of Kasia's. She stood in the center of the community space, staring at the papers, heart thunderous, because Kasia had finally done it. Let go, given without strings. And with that, something shifted in Rowan. That night, she knocked on the door of the suite. She didn't have a key anymore. She didn't want one. The door opened slowly. Kasia stood there. No blazer, no armor, just a t-shirt, bare feet, and the most terrified look Rowan had ever seen on her face. I'm not here to forgive you, Rowan said. I'm not here to be rescued, Kasia whispered. Good, Rowan said. Because I'm not here to be conquered. Then what are you here for? Kasia asked. To start again, Rowan replied from level ground. Even after everything. Because of everything. Kasia stepped back, let her in. No kiss, no declarations, just silence. Mutual, hard-earned, and sacred. Rowan looked around, then back at her. It's still messy. It always will be. But I'm not afraid of the mess anymore, Rowan said. Kasia closed the door behind them. Then stay on your own terms. No more shadows. No more control. Just us. That, Rowan said softly, is all I ever wanted. They didn't pretend everything was fixed. There were no speeches, no promises carved into stone. But Rowan stayed and Kasia let her. Not in silence, not in tension, but in something new. Permission. They lived slower now. Mornings with touch instead of retreat. Nights with laughter that didn't sound rehearsed. Kasia still slipped sometimes into control, into instinct. But Rowan would reach across the distance and say nothing. Just place a hand over hers until the tension broke. And Kasia learned to stop. Not out of fear, but out of choice. They didn't talk about Langford Holdings. Not at first. The war felt distant now, like something that belonged to another life until the envelope came. No return address delivered by hand. Inside, a subpoena. Langford Holdings was suing for interference with acquisition. Strategic sabotage. Retaliation in legal disguise. Rowan read it first, then passed it to Kasia. Her face stayed unreadable, but her hand clenched. "They're pushing you," Rowan said, "trying to bait you back into the war." "And it's working," Kasia replied. Quiet, honest. "They're not just attacking my business. They're attacking you through me." Rowan sat down. "Then we don't play by their rules." "There are rules, only the ones we set now." A pause. "Then what if they win?" "Then we lose together," Rowan said. "But we don't lose ourselves." That changed something in Kasia's posture. The fight didn't disappear. It just shifted. That week, they met with lawyers. But Rowan sat at the table beside her this time, not behind her. Kasia let her speak. Let her challenge strategy. Let her take the lead. Nadia returned briefly. Only to deliver the final documents from her infiltration. She didn't stay. Just passed Rowan a folder with a note. "It's your game now. Play it like it's already yours." The hearing was scheduled. A quiet closed courtroom. Minimal press. Kasia wore black. Not for intimidation, but for grounding. She reached for Rowan's hand as they entered. Not as a gesture, as a promise. The lawyers did their work. The case was weak, full of accusation, short on evidence. But the tactic was clear. Discredit Kasia by association. Rowan was called to the stand. She didn't shake. She didn't soften. She told the truth. Her voice didn't tremble when she looked at the panel and said, "I was never coerced, not manipulated. I walked into that first ride thinking I was getting a stranger. I walked away knowing I had met the first person who ever made me feel like I didn't have to be afraid of being seen." The courtroom was still. Kasia's eyes didn't leave her. When the ruling came, it was swift. Langford's case dismissed. No damages, no leverage, no victory. Outside, they didn't celebrate. Not like before. They walked together down the courthouse steps, hands clasped, quiet in the noise of passing traffic. "You didn't flinch," Kasia said. "You didn't interfere," Rowan replied. They smiled. The weight between them had changed shape. No longer heavy, now earned. Back at the suite, Rowan packed a small bag. Kasia watched her from the doorway. "Leaving?" "No," Rowan turned. "Moving?" "You've had your space. Now I want us to find ours." Kasia's chest tightened. "Where doesn't matter." Rowan stepped forward, wrapping her arms around her. "As long as it's new, as long as we choose it together." Kasia held her back, eyes closed. "I'll follow you anywhere." "No," Rowan whispered. "You'll walk beside me. That's the whole point." They didn't need anything else that night. No declarations, no elaborate plans, just a key in Rowan's pocket, a new address written on a napkin, a promise made without words. The past had come to collect one last time, and they sent it away hand in hand. They moved into a place with terrible floors and too much light. A loft on the edge of the old quarter with exposed brick, no elevator, and a crooked window that let in the city's noise like a heartbeat. Rowan fell in love with it the second they walked in. Kasia hated it at first. "There's no structure," she said. "Exactly," Rowan replied. "That's the point." So, they painted the walls together badly. Rowan tracked blue across the floor with her socks. Kasia got paint on her wristwatch and didn't even curse. They hung shelves unevenly and broke a lamp during an argument about couch placement. It felt messy, loud, alive. And every morning, Kasia brewed coffee before Rowan woke up. Not because she needed it, but because she knew Rowan did. And every night, Rowan left the balcony door open because she knew Kasia only fell asleep when she could hear the city breathing. Slowly, the world adjusted. People stopped watching. Deals got signed. The media never found the story. The city went on, unaware that it had almost been a battlefield for something much quieter than power, love. Rowan started teaching, writing workshops downtown, 3 nights a week, folding chairs and black markers. She told her students stories not about success, but about rebuilding, about standing still long enough to be truly seen. Kasia opened a small foundation. Quiet, anonymous, grants for housing and education. She sat in the back of her own boardroom now, listening more than she spoke. When people asked who she was, she just said, someone trying to do better. They hosted dinners badly. Rowan burned things. Kasia forgot people's names. No one cared. The laughter was real. The space was warm. And somewhere between a spilled glass of wine and a broken chair, they learned that peace wasn't silent. It was shared chaos you stopped running from. One night, months later, Kasia came home early. Rowan was on the floor surrounded by notebooks and tea-stained pages. "I'm writing about us," she said without looking up. Kasia froze. "Why?" "Because it's not a fairy tale." Rowan looked at her. "But it's real. And I want someone to read it one day and know that two women made a mess and didn't run from it." Kasia walked over, knelt beside her. "We're still making it." "Exactly." Kasia looked down at the notes. There were lines that sounded like her, lines that sounded like Rowan, and some that sounded like both of them, woven so tightly together she couldn't tell where one ended. "What if I'm not finished becoming the version of me you deserve?" Kasia asked. "Good," Rowan said, brushing her fingers against her cheek. "Because I'm not finished becoming the version of me you need, either." Kasia kissed her there on the floor, among pages and ink and candlelight. When she pulled back, she didn't reach for a ring, a promise, or a next step. She only said, "Let's keep writing." Rowan smiled. That night, they left the balcony door open. Rain tapped the glass in a soft rhythm. Rowan fell asleep first. Kasia lay beside her, one arm wrapped around the woman who had stepped into her car and never stepped back out. She stared at the ceiling, at nothing, at everything. And for the first time in years, she wasn't plotting the next move. She wasn't defending a kingdom. She wasn't tallying trust. She was simply home.